who is our Director of Community Resources. We will be here tonight to provide an update on some county business, some very basic COVID information based on the latest information that we're getting from the state and from the Tri-County Health Department. And we will also be doing a deeper dive into everything that Community Resources does and the many programs and methods and people that are helping everybody get back on their feet after the last trying year that we've had. So if you are joining us on the phone and want to ask a question, you should dial *3, and that'll put you through to an operator who will put you in the queue to ask a question of one of our panelists or both, of course. And we are also doing these events for all 5 commissioners. We did one last night with Commissioner Sharp and the Human Services Department, and we have them coming up throughout the month. We're going to do the Finance Department, Open Spaces, and Public Works and Development. So even if you have missed one of these or want to circle back and get it, we do provide recordings of them on the website. So that's arapahoegov.com/town hall. So with that in mind, let's get to the slideshow. And here is Commissioner Jackson.
Well, hello, everybody. I'm Commissioner Nancy Jackson, and I'm really thrilled to be with you tonight. You know, we used to do these just face to face, and sometimes 4 people would come, sometimes 12, sometimes 20. But when we do it in this way, we can all kind of be together. So I really like it that way. So we're going to go ahead and start our slideshow. With me tonight, we're going to be welcoming Kathy Smith. Kathy Smith is our our Community Resources Director. She formerly worked for about 10 years for our Human Services Department, then left to go to the state for a while. And then when we had an opening as the director, we brought her back. So you'll hear a lot more from Kathy in just a little while. So we're very glad that you're here. And I'm going to kind of kick us off with just some background information on COVID. We don't have anybody here tonight from Tri-County Health, so none of us on this call are experts, but we will kind of give you an update on some basics here. So we are still under Tri-County Health's public order, as you can see on the slide, until May 16th. And so that means that we're still at level blue on the state style, and we'll be at level clear after that, which means no, no restrictions on capacities, although mask orders will still apply in certain communities and businesses. That will be in effect for like 90 days until mid-August, and then we have to wait and see if Tri-County Health is going to move us to more restrictive or less restrictive capacities. So just depends on hospitalizations. We're now monitoring hospitalizations pretty closely. So again, we're going to urge you to do best practices. We all know what that means. Wash your hands, social distance, wear a mask, all of that, because there still are variations that are in our community. There are still people who are not vaccinated, And so we just really want to urge everybody to be careful. Vaccines are available to anyone who wants it. 16 or over. You can go to our Tri-County Health Department website. They are giving vaccines. A number of sites are giving vaccines. So it's pretty easy to schedule yourself or just walk in many sites. So stay up to date and visit either the Tri-County Health Department website or our website, arapahoegov.com. So on our next slide, we're going to be talking about what's going on with the county in 2021. So we're still feeling the impact of the coronavirus, and we may not experience everything until 2022 because our property taxes are the primary source of revenue, and 2021 is an assessment year. So we won't know how COVID has affected us until next year. But preliminary reports indicate that our home values have gone up about 9.2%, and certain categories of real estate, commercial real estate, have gone down. That is, as you probably can guess, restaurants and bars, mostly offices and hospitality kinds of things. And again, that's COVID related. With that in mind, we are operating with more fiscal restraint than usual. I think if you've heard me speak about this before, we have a number of programs that make sure that we are doing things as effectively and as efficiently as possible, measuring outcomes and trying to make sure that all of our goals and all of the kinds of things that we do are done effectively. So last year, a big part of what we did was finalize our new strategic plan, and that sets the standards for the actions, interactions, and decisions as we, again, continue to be as effective and efficient as we can be. And given the economic stressors that the pandemic has created, the strategic plan is going to help us keep our fiscal house in order, if you will, so that we are continuing to do what we can, and that includes either cutting programming, eliminating unnecessary expenses whenever possible. All of our departments have been tasked with finding potential savings. We've been very pleased with how well we've been able to keep providing essential county services, so we haven't cut anything, even while many of our employees are still working remotely. And we're going to keep looking at that to find out if we want to keep some services remote or whether we are going to bring folks back in to their offices, depending on what works the best. And we still have a lot of financial challenges, aging infrastructure and strained facilities. Again, if you've heard me talk about our Justice Center, our detention facility, and our courthouse. They're aging, they're falling apart. They have plumbing that is rusting out and other kinds of problems. One of the things that the board and stakeholders have been doing and are going to continue to evaluate is how to address our aging infrastructure moving forward. Again, many of you know that we have only one sales tax, and that's our open spaces sales tax, 0.25 cents. And that's going to be sunsetting in 2023. So we will probably be looking at reauthorizing that. Could be even as soon as this November. They are doing a master plan right now so that before we go to our citizens and ask them to reauthorize that tax, you will know where that money is going to be spent. So that's an exciting program. And speaking of excitement, this year we're going to open back up our county fair. If you haven't been to the county fair, it's really fun for, as we say, young and old. You can wear your cowboy hat or not. And great food, great county fair food, lots of fun things to see and to do. That date will be July 22 through 25. And so bring the kids, the grandkids, grandmas, grandpas, and y'all come out to the county fair this summer. We are also going to be getting some funding from the federal government, thanks to what we're calling ARPA, the rescue funds. We don't know yet how much. And again, we will be talking to stakeholders and working out the specifics of that program. I think when it's Kathy's turn to talk, she will be talking about a little bit about how we have spent the funds that we have gotten so far. So for challenges and opportunities, next slide. Next slide. Challenges and opportunities. There we go. Thank you. Last year, as I mentioned, we received $114.5 million. That's a lot of money in relief funds for the CARES Act. And we money in really some visible ways. And as I mentioned, Kathy will talk about some specifics. So Kathy's department, community resources, and our human services departments really utilize that money effectively in our community. So we expanded some programs that we already have, and like food, like housing, a lot of eviction prevention. Money went to restaurants, money went to certain small businesses, and we've done some really hard work in making that money keep our economy alive and really provide for our citizens. So we are also continuing, again, as Kathy's going to mention, our programming for veterans and for seniors and lots of other groups. So again, if you want some more specifics, you can always go to the website, arapahoegov.com, to get some more information. So now I'm going to turn this over to Luke, who's going to talk about the County 101. You know, the most frequent question I get when people say, "What do you do?" and I say, "I'm a county commissioner," people say, "What's that? What do you do?" Folks are embarrassed, but they don't know what county commissioners do. So Luke is going to give you a little bit of insight as to what the county does. So Luke, over to you.
I'm one of the people who had to be taught what a county commissioner does when I first got the job. So don't be ashamed if you don't know. It's a common misconception. Before we get into the County 101 program, I would like to ask a polling question for everyone on the line. So if you're on the phone, we would like you to respond to the following question. On a scale of 1 to 5, how likely are you to recommend living in the county to someone else? If you're very likely, press 1. If you're somewhat likely, press 2. If you're neutral, press 3. If you're somewhat unlikely, press 4. And if you're very unlikely, press 5. So we will give you the results to this in a few minutes. Once again, how likely are you to recommend living in the county to someone else? Very likely is 1, somewhat likely is 2, neutral is 3, somewhat unlikely is 4, and very unlikely is 5. So we would like to gather these results and sort of use it as a way to communicate all of our operations better to you. And of course, one of the ways we can do that is by telling everybody and trying to be clear about what the county does versus cities, state, federal, and so forth. As you might imagine, it's a very expansive web and complex setup for levels of government, and there is occasionally overlap. For example, when we do a lot of road projects, particularly in the part of the county that sort of fades from Aurora to the eastern part of the county, we often will have projects that involve multiple entities, not just us, but maybe the city of Aurora, maybe other towns, other counties, that kind of thing. So there is quite a bit of overlap. As Commissioner Jackson has put it a number of times, the state government makes the sausage and we serve it. And so what that means is that we are agents of the state. We have elected representatives in addition to the 5 county commissioners. We have the sheriff, the coroner, the treasurer, the assessor, and the clerk and recorder. Those are all elected offices. There, of course, there are other departments on top of that. What our job is as a county, and this is true of all counties in Colorado, is that we administer and enforce the state laws. We collect taxes. We assess properties. We take care of, house, maintain public records. We issue licenses for things like marriages and business permits, and quite a few other things. We rely on partnerships. If you based on my description of the road projects a few seconds ago, we partner all the time, both as a taxing entity and as just an actual business entity with school and fire districts. We partner with water providers and park systems. And of course, we partner with the state and the federal government when it's applicable, for example, on the ARPA program that's about to come out. What we have done at our county, at Arapahoe County, is if you go to our website and you go to arapahoegov.com/county101, we've set up a page there for sort of an ongoing project that will hopefully shed light on the operations day to day and week to week and month to month of the county in various categories. And we will, continue to post things up there that will hopefully help people get a clearer understanding of if they have an issue, they need to have it addressed. They need to know who to call, who can help them. And even if we're not the entity that will call you, that will help you with a problem, we can refer you to the right people. We just did that this week on a landlord issue that was happening up in Aurora. So we're always happy to provide information. We will continue to do so going forward. And one of the goals of this set of conversations with all the individual departments is to highlight what each of those departments does. There are certainly many more than 5 departments in the county, but these are the 5 that the people that our residents and our businesses interact with most frequently. So that's the idea behind the County 101 project. We welcome feedback about it, and we would love to hear more, because it's incumbent upon all of us to be good citizens, to be informed, and it's our job to inform you as transparently and openly and as fully as possible. So with that, I will pass it back to Commissioner Jackson, who is going to introduce us to Kathy Smith.
Right. So thank you, Luke. County 101, that was as brief as it could be to explain a really complicated organization. So thank you for that. Okay, next slide, our community resources programs. I'm delighted to have Kathy Smith here to kind of give us just an overview of all the many things that, remember, that's one department that Kathy oversees, and we're going to have Kathy talk about all the different programs that that department provides. So I'm delighted, Kathy. There we go.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. And thank you, everyone. I'm excited to be here tonight to be able to talk about community resources. So Arapahoe County Community Resources is a diverse and comprehensive department that offers a variety of supportive programs to strengthen our communities and to provide resources to our most vulnerable residents. And this slide is pretty high level, just gives a good idea of each of the areas and divisions within the Community Resources Department. So our Housing and Community Development, Judicial Services, our Senior Resources, Veteran Services, Weatherization, and then our Arapahoe Douglas Works, or others may know it as AD Works. So our programs create opportunities, enhance quality of life, and build better communities for some of our most vulnerable populations. If you can move to the next slide, we'll kind of go through a rundown of some of the populations that we serve. So our low-income families, we have county-run programs, and we partner with an extensive network of community nonprofits, governments, and quasi-governmental organizations who fill the gap and provide much-needed services and resources to our residents. Millions of dollars are funneled annually into programs hosted by the county or its partners to provide meals to homebound seniors, shelter for those experiencing homelessness, youth mentoring, much needed emergency rent and mortgage assistance, case management, repairs and enhancements to affordable housing units, ADA accessibility and assistance in navigating affordable healthcare, just to name a few. And as Commissioner Jackson had mentioned, many of those are areas in which we were able to really infuse some additional funds over the last year to make sure that we were helping those that were most affected by the pandemic. Our older adults and those with disabilities, we offer homemaker and chore service programs that help seniors with light housekeeping and keeps them living independently in their homes. Additionally, we offer Shoppers for Seniors, emergency food assistance, and the Dig Out Your Neighbor program, to name a few. We also partner with transportation services to get seniors to doctor's appointments and the grocery store. Our veterans population, our veterans office in Arapahoe County, we actually have 2 locations now, one in Littleton and one in Aurora. We are staffed by veterans themselves who help fellow veterans navigate the benefits they're eligible for. Justice involved. We're working really hard always to keep our community safe, of course. And our Judicial Services is a program that provides wraparound services for those who are justice involved to enter community corrections programs. These programs work with individuals to meet their needs for addiction or mental health counseling, as well as job training and readiness to re-enter society and no longer commit crimes. The program also offers community service and pretrial navigation to those awaiting sentencing. Job seekers and businesses. So we have our wonderful workforce center, 80 Works, which I would like to say award-winning. And 80 Works does an excellent job of ensuring economic vitality. For our job seekers and our businesses, like I said, nationally recognized workforce development center. So what does that mean? It's a one-stop shop from job fairs to workshops that help with resume writing, upskilling, and new technologies for our workforce. It can help anyone to guide their career path to move forward. And for businesses, we offer many programs and solutions to hiring, training, and retaining a skilled workforce, and work really closely with partnering with our economic development partners to really attract and bring new businesses to the area. We also do a great weatherization program to ensure safe and energy efficient homes in Arapahoe County, as well as a partnership with Adams County. Weatherization is a program that helps low income families save up to $330 per year on their energy costs. Not only do the qualified technicians that we employ help to make energy efficient improvements that keep individuals and families warmer in winter and cooler in the summer, but we've also identified many safety hazards in homes that have saved lives and have been really at the forefront of ensuring that we're working towards energy efficiency, solar, all of those great things. Another area is our volunteer services. So, Community Resources provides Volunteer Connections, which is a rewarding program that offers dozens of positions that more than 1,200 volunteers participate in annually. The impact of volunteers is powerful. More than 32,000 hours of time is volunteered each year and valued at more than $850,000. And some of those great programs that I mentioned for our low income families, shopping for seniors, dig out your neighbor, those are some of our great volunteer opportunities. So that is just a really high level overview of community resources at a high level, and happy to answer other questions people have.
All right. Thank you, Kathy. We will definitely come back to you throughout the rest of the call. Before we get to the questions, let me remind you once again, if you're on the phone and want to ask a question of anyone on the panel, just dial *3, or you can plug it into the comments box if you're just watching online. And let's see, before we get to the phone questions, one phone question currently lined up. I want to give you the results of the first poll, which is on a scale of 1 to 5. How likely are you to recommend living in the county to someone else? 44% of you said very likely, 35% said somewhat likely, 15% are neutral, and 6% are somewhat unlikely. So 79% are at least somewhat likely to recommend living in Arapahoe County, which is great to hear. Of course, quality of life is one of the things we strive to support as much as we possibly can and improve, of course. So let me ask the second polling question, which is more about the government itself. So same 1 through 5 format if you're on the phone. The question is, how satisfied are you about your interactions with the Arapahoe County government? Press 1 if you're very satisfied. Press 2 if you've been somewhat satisfied. Press 3 if you're neutral or it's not applicable because you haven't had any interactions. Press 4 if you're somewhat dissatisfied, and press 5 if you're very dissatisfied. So once again, how satisfied are you about the interactions that you've had with the Arapahoe County government? 1 is very satisfied, 2 is somewhat satisfied, 3 is neutral or not applicable, 4 is somewhat dissatisfied, and 5 is very dissatisfied. Of course, we take these results very seriously, and I'm sure the results may not be as generous on this one as they were in the first one. So we're always trying to improve, and that kind of ties back to the County 101 thing. We just want everybody to feel like they're being heard when they do have a problem or a question or a need that we can solve for them. So, all right. So we're going to get into the questions now with the commissioner and with Kathy. Let's start with a phone question. This is about COVID restrictions, and I think we can answer this one. So I'm going to bring Evie on to ask us about COVID restrictions. Evie, you are live.
Yes, I was wondering what the COVID restrictions are on people that do not get these shots.
Okay.
So,
And
so
I also,
Oh,
go ahead.
I'm sorry, she got cut off. What are the restrictions for people who
Right.
have not or will not get the vaccine?
So we can't go around asking people whether or not they have gotten their shots. That's just something that we can't do. So the restrictions for people who have not been vaccinated are basically similar, except that we ask them to not gather in groups. We would ask them to wear masks and so forth. But it's very, very difficult when you meet somebody, or if you're gathering in a group, to go around and say, "Okay, are you vaccinated?" There might be certain organizations or places where there's a sign posted or something, but that's a very, very difficult and tricky situation at the moment. My advice is, whether you're vaccinated or not, is to take care of yourself. Um, wear your mask, wash your hands, and if you're going to be in a small group, check with the group and see if they're all vaccinated. So, as far as I know, that's about as much as I can say. I would double check with Tri-County Health website to see if they have any cautionary advice for you.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're hearing as well, Commissioner. It's a tricky conversation about vaccinated or not vaccinated. As far as I can tell, so far there haven't been any specific restrictions placed on one group or the other. We're all supposed to be wearing the mask when in doubt, whether we're vaccinated or not. And I believe the governor is still encouraging people to only go out with groups that they know, like family or close friends. Keep the group small, that kind of thing. So. Let's see. We have another question here on the phone. This is from Arnie in Aurora, and I believe this relates to ARPA. So this is for you, Commissioner. Arnie, go ahead. You're live.
Commissioner Jackson, I was wondering if the county is going to get any funding for infrastructure projects, either from the federal government or from the state government. Thank you.
Thanks, Arnie. Good to hear from you. So the answer is yes, I hope so. The bills have not been passed yet, as far as I know, with the federal government, but we should be getting what people are calling a tranche of funding. We're not sure yet how much that would be, but it usually goes to the state, and then the state divides the money up. My guess is that some of the state will keep some money so we can do some of those partnering that Luke mentioned, and then we can do some local work as well. So we hope that bill passes, the infrastructure bill, so that we then would get some funding for infrastructure. And then we would certainly share with the community what we would be using that money for.
And just for those of you listening tonight, next week on Wednesday, our departmental head guest is Todd Weaver from our finance department. And even if we don't have specifics yet about ARPA, he can do a very thorough job of explaining how it's going to work and how it might differ from the CARES package that we got last year. So stay tuned, because there's going to be a lot more information to come on that. Let me give you the answer to the second polling question, which was, how satisfied are you about your interactions with the Arapahoe County government? 48% of you are very satisfied, 9% somewhat satisfied, 30% neutral or not applicable, 4% somewhat dissatisfied, and 9% very dissatisfied. So, we will do whatever we can to make those numbers improve. We always welcome questions and comments and feedback. If you ever do have sort of a general question or just a comment, the best way to get it seen is send an email to communicationsservices@arapahoegov.com. That's an email address, and our whole department sees it, and we can point you in the right direction, respond as needed, and so forth. So with that, once again, press *3 if you're on the phone and want to get in line to answer a question or to ask a question. And let's get to know Kathy Smith a little better. Commissioner, why don't you go ahead and start talking to us about Kathy and her background?
Well, Kathy, I think I mentioned earlier, Kathy is originally from Iowa. And I told her that was fine. We would put up with that. And she started out her career in serving. She's a person who believes in public service. So she started out her career with developmental disabilities, and then came to the county and worked in our human services department for about 10 years or so. Then went to the state and worked in the state human services department. And then we snagged her from the state. She has a 2-year-old, hopefully not a terrible 2, but a delightful 2-year-old daughter. And she's just a real asset to our very complicated community resources department. So we're really excited to have her with us. Yeah.
So Kathy, what brought you back to the county?
Well, as Commissioner Jackson said, I spent almost 10 years with the county in human services, overseeing public assistance and child support services. And I did leave the county to take a role with the Colorado Department of Human Services. But when the community resources director position came available, I knew it was the right position for me. Serving Arapahoe County in my previous roles was the highlight of my career, and being able to affect change and direct change in the programs and services in Arapahoe County is really what drives me and satisfies me. So, although I didn't have the direct work experience with community resources, I had worked really closely through many joint projects and programs and endeavors with the divisions in community resources. And I knew that my previous experience and knowledge would be a great fit for the county and for the programs in the community resources department. So I was really excited to take on this challenge to kind of move things forward and learn more and serve the county in a different role.
So if I can butt in on this, an example of that is that for a while now I've been working on the intractable issue of homelessness, and I think anybody in the metro area understands what a complicated and difficult and prevalent problem that is. And I don't think it took Kathy a week before she was helping out and pitching in and working on a group that we have across the county. So Kathy is a real can-do kind of person with a lot of really creative and very helpful ideas. So we're thrilled to have her.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Of the online is what role does the county play with regard to homeless encampments on the Platte River and elsewhere around the county? What community resource, of course, is heavily involved in this. So, Kathy, can you talk a little bit about some of our programs?
There you go.
Most definitely. So, just to be clear, of course, community resources doesn't directly deal with relocating encampments and things like that. But what our goal is in community resources is to really be able to do some of that outreach and provide some of those supports along with human services to ensure that we've got wraparound support for anyone who's experiencing homelessness. So whether it's in encampments, whether someone is newly homeless due to the pandemic, we do have, as Commissioner Jackson mentioned, right now we've got a lot of additional funds, emergency rental assistance funds, where we can assist individuals and families with rental arrears or with getting into a new place if they found themselves homeless. And then from there, our goal really is to ensure that we are meeting all of their needs. And one of those is ensuring long-term self-sufficiency. So really connecting them with our workforce center and seeing what we can do there, ensuring that we get them resources in the community to meet any possible mental health or substance abuse needs. Again, partnering with other departments in the county that can provide food assistance, medical assistance, all of those services. So really ensuring partnership. And we're excited when we talk about the thoughts of ARPA funding and future emergency rental assistance funds, being able to really continue to enhance our outreach for some of those populations that you're seeing in encampments, as well as individuals who are living in hotels, motels currently. Through our emergency rental assistance funds, we have been able to provide some case management to really help to get services to those individuals. And we look forward to being able to continue doing that moving forward.
Excellent. Yeah, I wanted to note, like, as a communications person for the county, one of our community resources is one of our favorite departments to work with because the issues they face are among the most serious that our residents are facing. But also bring out some of the best stories. So, you know, those of you who follow the news may have recently seen a story about our Shoppers for Seniors program, for example, where we a mother in the Centennial area decided to volunteer and became, you know, was sort of connected to an elderly resident in a nearby area. And the younger woman and her daughter, her 9-year-old daughter, have become fast friends with the person that they bring groceries to every other week. So, you know, little things like that are the kind of stuff that we want to hear about. So, you know, certainly we would love to have everybody volunteer. Love to have you tell us your story, how how the county has helped you, how the county could be helping you better. So that's some of our favorite stuff to hear about and to share with the rest of the community. So we have another phone question. This one is about property taxes. And this is Sue in Centennial. Sue, you are live. Go ahead.
Hi, I was just wondering with the letter that we just got from the assessor's office. I've lived in the same townhome for 23 years, and I was wondering if we can expect to pay as much as we did for the taxes that went up last year, because last summer was the first time in over 20 years that I basically had to make two payments. Like I basically had to pay 2 mortgage payments for because of the taxes that went up. So I was just trying to prepare myself for this year.
Okay.
Of what we can expect.
I will tell you, it's a very complicated issue. So good news is your house, your condo, your townhouse is worth more, right? So if you sold it on the market, you would get a lot more than what you paid for it. Bad news is that affects your property tax. So even though Arapahoe County tax is amongst the lowest in our metro area, and because of some complicated Gallagher and Tabor issues, it's very low, and we keep it low. However, because of a couple of factors, one is the fact that your house is worth more, the assessed value is worth more, and there are many other. If you would look at your tax receipt, and you can go online and check this out. There's the school taxes. If you're in any special districts, there's taxes and other kinds of special districts, fire district, for example, library district, for example. All those taxes also rely on your value. And so if you add up all those special districts, if you add up, the increased value, then I'm afraid to say, yes, your taxes do are a little bit higher. There's not much we can do about that. I don't know how old you are. There is the senior tax exemption that you can take advantage of through our treasurer's department. But as far as I know, that's about the only tax relief we have. Um, it's really this very complicated um, issue of the fact that our home prices have been really increasing so rapidly. I don't know if that helps, but certainly you can call us offline and we can take a look and with you. The treasurer can go through it, or somebody from the assessor's department can go through your tax bill with you and really answer your specific questions. And you would find that on our website, arapahoegov.com, or you can just email me at njackson@arapahoegov.com, and there it is. And then I'll direct your question to the appropriate person to get your specific answer.
Yeah, the other thing to keep in mind is that we are currently in the period of the year when property owners can protest their assessment if they feel that it's inaccurate. Of course, a lot of people this year are probably a little more financially strapped than they might have been a year ago. So you do have the option if you feel like your property hasn't been assessed correctly or hasn't increased in value the way it seems to have on the tax form. You're allowed to protest that. And it depends on math basically, but it's an option that property owners have. And then the other thing that's on your tax form that we wanted to point out is we're one of the, I believe, 2 counties in the state that are using a QR code on the form. So if you take your smartphone and scan the QR code, that puts you right through to your specific property information, and it'll have numbers and so forth there for and options for any kind of questions you might have for it. So definitely take advantage of that. Before we get back to a little more community resources, I wanted to mention, Commissioner Jackson, you are the board chair this year, which is something you're elected to by your peers. And can you talk a little bit about what the board chair does that's different from the other years when you're not the board chair?
Yes. So yeah, we every year we get together and we decide on committee assignments and liaison assignments, and who's going to be board chair and vice chair and so on, chair pro tem. So the duties of the chair are really parliamentary mostly. So I chair all the meetings, which is really interesting in this age of Zoom, because you're looking for hands going up, you're trying to read the chat, you're doing all this stuff. So I have to really pay attention. I know that people who don't have their cameras on are multitasking, but I can't do that. I have to watch the hands going up. I have to call on people and so on. So that's one of the things that we do as chairs. The other thing is I sign documents, so we make a lot of decisions. We have a lot of MOUs and so on and so forth. And once the board has voted or agreed on something, then I sign those documents. So it's an honor and it's a pleasure, but it does not represent any power. I don't make decisions without my colleagues. So sometimes people wonder about that, but no, Board of County Commissioners work as a group to make decisions.
Indeed, and it's a good group that gets along, and it's very easy to work with. So we appreciate that as employees of the county, certainly.
It's
To get
interesting because I just
Go
want
ahead.
to say it's very interesting because our points of view are very different. Our
Right.
geographies and our districts are different, and our philosophies are different. But somehow we manage to discuss things and get along and like and respect each other. So it's really a unique opportunity.
And that shows through every day, without a doubt. To
Nice.
get back to Community Resources, we have an online question here that's asking, does the county offer any mental health services? Kathy, can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Sure. Thank you for that question. So the county doesn't directly offer any mental health services. Of course, our human services assist with ensuring that people that are eligible can be covered Medicaid, and then can see a Medicaid approved provider. So we don't actually, as a county, provide direct services in the area of mental health, but we do have a lot of partnerships with our community mental health centers, All Health, Gateway, all of our close community partners to make sure that services are there. So there are funding streams that are going from the county or county grants to our mental health providers, so that we ensure that there are mental health services out there in our community that are sufficient.
And our Human Services Department also works with a lot of those same agencies, I think. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. And then Commissioner Jackson, you have quite a background in this area too. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. I have a bachelor's degree a long time ago in psychology, and I've been interested in this field for before and since then. I have been serving on the board of Aurora Mental Health for, I don't know, if we added it up, I bet off and on about 20 years. I have been on the Rocky Mountain Crisis Partners. That's the 24-hour hotline for the state. I was on there till my terms ran out, probably about 8 years, was chair of that board, and have just been really active in the nexus between behavioral health and the criminal justice system, and been working for the last 11 years as commissioner on trying to divert people with mental illness out of the jail, where they just get worse. So I'm on a number of other committees and programs and so on, but yeah, it's a passion of mine. I really think we need to provide services for those who have behavioral health problems.
Yeah, and it certainly seems to be a increasingly mentioned topic at all levels of government, and it feels like we're finally getting some awareness around it that we didn't have even a few years ago.
This is Mental Health Week month, by the way.
That's right.
Just May is Mental Health Month, so time to be aware of it. And if you can, donate. Nobody asked me to say this, but donate to your local mental health center or nonprofit, because the funding is needed.
Absolutely.
We do what we can. We have a program called Aid to Agencies, and we do what we can, but the need is great.
So we have about 10 or 12 minutes left. Once again, if you're on the phone and want to ask a question, dial *3 and they'll put you through to an operator. You can also put a question in the comments box if you're watching online. We talked a little bit earlier about community resources, job-related departments and programs, the big one being AD Works. Can you talk a little bit more, Kathy, about the kind of things that AD Works does?
Definitely. So I know we talked a little bit about AD Works providing pretty much a gamut of anything for job seekers. First, there are some programs that individuals who are receiving public benefits, such as TANF or food assistance, have some requirements that they need to participate in a workforce in order to receive those benefits. And so, of course, we have those participants that are receiving public benefits and then are referred over to the workforce center as part of that. But in addition, we have other funding streams that can really help anybody out in the community that is looking for assistance with finding employment. Things as things beginning as much as just job search, how to update your resume. There are many online trainings and access points that way, job fairs. And then for individuals who are really looking to upskill, possibly change their career, looking to move in a new direction, especially through the pandemic, we found that there are individuals who may be ready to move on to a different role, a different career. And so, really being able to provide some upskilling assistance there has been great. And we do have apprenticeship opportunities and what we call work based learning. So, kind of on the job training opportunities as well, and really looking into the upcoming year to enhance and increase those apprenticeship and on the job training opportunities that we have. We do have youth programs as well that really focus on our youth population and getting them started with employment and gaining some of those career skills that'll be needed moving into the future. Additionally, I mentioned we work really closely with our businesses, a lot of analysis and data on trying to determine what our area needs are. So, what are the businesses in the area that are currently looking for employees that we can help upskill our um, upskill our population as it relates to what's needed from our businesses, but then also working with our businesses to look at what kinds of data they may need to see where they want to recruit from, things like that. We work really closely and do some funding for our economic development partners, which really helps to attract additional uh, businesses to the area. So we've got a great wealth of businesses here now, but want to continue to grow in Arapahoe County and enhance what we've got for our residents. Through the pandemic, we have really had some great and exciting programs and hope to continue to as it relates to virtual services, also some federally and state funded grants that we were able to provide to some small businesses that were struggling, hoping in the future year that we may be able to utilize some of the funds to really focus on job seekers and what supports that we can put in place for them. That's one of the really exciting things about AD Works as well, is that in some of the programming, depending on the funding stream, we're really able to provide some exciting supportive services for individuals. So not just assisting with job search and those kinds of things, but making sure that everyone has the tools that they need to get started. So individuals may need assistance with getting transportation to and from work, may need assistance with getting a computer, work boots, those kinds of things. So it's really a gamut of services, and we can serve anyone in the county that is in need.
And you mentioned economic development. One of the questions we have online here is what sort of work do we do with economic development groups to bring new business to the county? I assume that's chambers of commerce, things like that.
Yes, that's correct. So, go ahead, Commissioner Jackson.
Well, I was going to talk about the high level and you can talk about the nitty gritty, but we do not have an economic development person in the county. Rather, we rely on our partners across the county. So the Aurora Economic Development Center, chambers all across, several chambers. And out on the eastern part, there are some chambers of commerce and um, an Eastern Economic Development organization. So we work with all of them across the county to do the economic development work, and then we sit on their boards and we donate to their programs. And Kathy, do you have some more specifics around how we actually work with them?
Yes.
We help
So,
in site selection. Go ahead.
no, that's right. One of the kind of more into the day-to-day work that 80 Works does with our economic development partners really focuses around pulling together data and analyzing the market in the area that they're looking, what kinds of job seekers do we have? What is their education background? What field are they looking to work in, as well as what kinds of areas should we provide more training, upskilling in. So a lot of that is providing the assistance around the data and the day-to-day of what we can offer here in Arapahoe County for a workforce.
And yeah, I'd like to piggyback on that because one of the things that to keep in mind for our listeners is you don't necessarily have to be in a professional crisis to use our services. Just this week, the Colorado Sun ran a kind of a fun story about how AD Works is working with some other local agencies to do a job fair for jobs in Antarctica of all places. So we have quite a few connections throughout the world, really, and that can help people, as Kathy mentioned, who might be changing careers or want to do something different, or that kind of thing. So it's definitely worth browsing around the website to see what's there. We have just time for like another. I think I'm going to close with this question for both of you. COVID has been COVID, right? It's been a year plus of stress and strain and uncertainty. In each of your work, Kathy, obviously you got back to the county just early this year, but do you have any idea about what kind of silver linings might have come out of all this for each of your positions?
Definitely. So, although we know this has been such a trying time for all of us and was a struggle, especially early on, we have been able to learn actually a lot from this. And I think there's going to be a lot we'll be able to carry into the future. Commissioner Jackson mentioned earlier the virtual services and appointments that we're currently offering in all areas of community resources, and it's something that we've really found that has been a benefit to Arapahoe County, and our participants have really given positive feedback, and so we do plan to continue to explore offering virtual services and appointments for things we hadn't in the past. Really being able to utilize technology as well, specifically with our virtual job fairs, trainings, those types of things, as well as, again, our virtual services and appointments that we talked about. So those are two of the biggest areas. We also found a silver lining in really working as a community with our municipalities to identify the need to really coordinate homeless services and come up with some shared goals and efforts. And so I think although it's been very unfortunate that we've seen such an increase in homelessness, it's really made us aware that this is the time that we need to act. And so I think we've got some really sound plans for moving forward and a coordinated effort to address homelessness. We have seen that there's an increased need to assist the public with employment services, and it's allowed us to start to explore some additional partnerships and programs related to upskilling and work-based learning activities like I discussed. And so we're excited about the future for some of those employment services. And then we've also been able to expand our volunteer opportunities. We talked about that Shoppers for Seniors program, which is a volunteer opportunity that really came out of the pandemic, but is something that will continue into the future because we've seen such benefits from it.
Commissioner Jackson, same question.
Sure. Thank you, Kathy. Kathy touched on a number of things that really go across departments. I think the first thing I'd like to say is, I think it was March 17th or something of 2020 when we looked at each other and said, oh my gosh, we're going to have to close our buildings. And our employees, all departments, I just say they turned on a dime. It was remarkable how that camaraderie, how everyone worked together, how everyone partnered, and we transitioned in a week, I think, from a traditional face-to-face county to something very different with, as Kathy mentioned, appointments, with folks working from home, from learning new skills with computers. Some departments found that they they had been planning to do some of these programs online, but never kind of got around to it. And all of a sudden, they got around to it. They made things happen. So we discovered some efficiencies. We discovered some new ways of doing things. And so those were some of the silver linings. Some people really loved being at home, and some people did not. So now we're working through some transition planning. But the partnerships, the camaraderie, those kinds of things, not just amongst ourselves, but as Kathy mentioned, with our municipalities and with other partners, it's like, when things get tough, we pitch in and we work together. Um, we've learned a lot about our partnership with Tri-County Health, which you may have been reading about, and with a lot of other partners that we have in, whether it's criminal justice and the jail and so on, or at the legislature. We've all kind of put our shoulders to the wheel and been working together. One thing I miss is that we have new employees and we don't get to meet them. And so that's really, really hard. And I can't imagine being a new employee in a large organization like ours and not getting to meet your colleagues. So we're inching towards kind of a hybrid or some kind of model so that we can take the best of what we've learned and then meld it with the needs of business and so on, and get back to the buildings and face to face again.
Yes, and I can echo that as well. I mean, one of the silver linings for us is we've been doing all these virtual town halls, which has really increased our engagement, and we cannot wait to get back face to face with our residents and with each other. But because it's been so effective, we will have a virtual component even when we're back face to face. So that'll be great for everybody, I think. All right. Well, we've shot past the 1 hour mark. So I just want to thank Commissioner Jackson and Kathy Smith for their very informative sessions tonight. And we invite you to watch more of these. We're going to have 3 more this month dealing with various departments around the county. And like I mentioned before, you can watch them as a recording after the fact. They're usually available about 24 hours after the event itself. So thank you very much and have a great night.
Thank you, Luke.